Yes, sir.
We
Give
are
thanks,
gathered
sir.
here for the Rastafari reasoning. And tonight we are having our presenter, Elder Ras Aswad and Krabia. Many of you already know him, but for those of us who don't know him, Ras Aswad, he's a pioneer member of the Food Sovereignty Ghana. We also know him as a repatriate, somebody who has been in Ghana for a very long time, a Rastafari elder. We all know the Achimota saga. His son was involved in the Achimota issue, and Ras Aswad fought until the school recognized the right of every dreadlock youth to access education in this country. He'll be telling us more about himself. Before I invite Ras Aswad to stage, please let me remind us the purpose of the Rastafari reasoning is to discuss, consult, and act together in focused exchanges of ideas, thoughts, views, knowledge, to comment on specific problems and air considered views on courses of action, to best follow in dealing with the world, to come to terms with history, politics, economics, so that as Rastafari, we don't repeat past errors. And instead of always trying to catch up with the world, this reasoning sticks to stimulate creative thinking. Tonight, our presenter, like I earlier mentioned, is Ras Aswad in Krabia, and he'll be presenting on this lecture series dubbed Rastafari Reasoning. The topic he'll be dealing with is Rastafari as an African liberation force. So, my lords, without saying much, I'll invite Ras Aswad to first and foremost introduce himself to those of us who don't know him yet, and then he will delve into the topic. Give thanks, my lord. Rastafari.
Yeah, man. Give thanks, everyone. Rastafari. Yes, I'm really pleased and felt honored, when the invitation was given to make this presentation tonight on the Rastafari Council Educational Forum. For the past month, I've been watching and I'm really engaged with the program itself, but I felt that it was a very good initiative. And I just want to big up the Kofi Asante for continuing that vein of education, and especially within the Rastafari community, because education is definitely key. Knowledge is power, right? Yeah, my name is Ras Azwadin Krabi. I was born in Jamaica. I've been here over 25 years now as a repatriatee. When I came to Ghana, I immediately, just got involved in the community, especially among the Rastafari community. And we were able to, together with a lot of other brethren, establish the Rastafari Council and Black Star Line Cooperative Credit Union, which we are still trying to revive it. Food Sovereignty Ghana, as Kofi Asante has said, we were one of the founding members, Food Sovereignty Ghana. And I also work with the Socialist Forum of Ghana, which is a socialist organization, a socialist movement. Not the Socialist Forum, but the Socialist Movement of Ghana. That is the name now. It was the Socialist Forum before, but now it is named Socialist Movement of Ghana, taking on another strong character. As a Rastafari, through the culture of Rastafari mainly, not so much the religion, but the culture of Rastafari and the spirituality. That is where my attraction and attention is. And out of that, the liberation struggles within the Rastafari movement from inception. As everyone knows, that Rastafari didn't start off as a religious organization or a religious group. It started out of a liberation movement to free ourselves from colonialism and oppression. During those days, in the early days, Rastafari elders and Rastafari individuals recognized the need to build alliance with other like-minded individuals. We were strong supporters of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, and there was affinity between Marcus Garvey and the Rastafari movement up until today, right? All of the other strong Pan-African leaders and so on throughout the world, the Rastafari movement had recognized them and try to build up an alliance. And even if we didn't build an alliance with them, we used to study their teachings. I'm happy to hear that what Kofi Asante just said in terms of the reason why this educational forum was established. And I just want to say that when I was a young youth, like 13, 14. This level of education was going on downtown Kingston under a big tree in the center of the city of Kingston. And it was a constant thing every single day that you used to go there and get this level of education that is going on this platform right now, right? And I'm pleased to see that the technology have been able to be utilized by the council, Rastafari Council, to do basically the same thing like what the Rastafari started in Jamaica, live and direct with elders and young people meeting under that tree to discuss pertinent and important issues. Well, as I said, no, today I place a lot of emphasis on politics. And the reason why I place a lot of emphasis on politics is because that was one of the strong points of the Rastafari movement, even though a lot of people don't want to recognize it. The Rastafari was a strong political force. And the reason why I say that is that politics is all about the social welfare of a people and security. And at that particular time, the Rastafari community recognized the need to intervene and ensure that the poor and oppressed social welfare was being dealt with justice. And that's part of what we used to actually liberate Jamaica out of the colonial oppression that was going on there. And it has continued up until today. So for me personally, politics is not anything new. I do understand what the brethren earlier days in the bridges were saying that they don't involve in politics, but they were not really talking about politics in its essence. They were talking about party politics, the divisive party politics where individual political party divide the people. That is what they were against, and they just say politics and politics. So that was really politics more than anything else. But politics is a science. And I encourage every single Rasta youth to study political science, and those who can actually go into it from a professional and academic level should go in from that academic and political level to understand it and apply it within the Rastafari movement. Like we did it practically, we were actually practically implementing political science within the movement of Rastafari in the early days. And that is what has brought us where we are today in terms of being able to achieve so much politically and socially throughout the world. Granted, we have not dealt with the issue of political economy very well, and that's the next stage that we have to look into. The political economic aspect of it, of the movement, so that we can be financially empowered, where finances become another weapon and another tool, just like reggae music. Or reggae music became a tool of liberation for the Rastafari movement. So that importance right now need to be given a lot of attention, where especially the youth is concerned. Well, this evening we're going to look into Rastafari as a Pan-African liberation force, right? With what is happening on the continent today, it's very important the Rasta community pay a lot of attention. As a matter of fact, study it very, very, very well. Because we are at the point where the enemy forces are trying to colonize Africa once more. And the forces of Rastafari is much stronger today on the continent than it was in those earlier days of colonialism. So it means that the colonialists will come face to face in confrontation with the Rastafari movement, because the core value of Rastafari is peace, love, and justice. We will die for our rights. As the Rastafari always say, death before dishonor. Just like in Burkina Faso, they say homeland or death. The same people, the same mission, the same purpose. So clearly at some point, the Rastafari movement is going to become a focus of the imperialists who are trying to even kill Traore and get rid of the revolution that is going on in Burkina Faso. It is important for us to pay keen attention to what is happening in Burkina Faso. Because as I said before, the Rastafari community and the Rastafari movement in general is going to become a next target, because of the fact that our views and our culture, our way of life and our philosophy and our political philosophy as well is not aligned with the oppressors. It's not aligned with capitalism. It is not aligned with imperialism. And at some point, the Rastas are going to be targeted because of the fact that we have such a strong influence throughout the world. We have been able to push the revolution beyond the borders of Jamaica and have pushed it all over the world today. Even Chinese and other are embracing the Rastafari philosophy and culture. So that goes to show you the potency of Rastafari in itself. We have seen what Bob Marley have done as one individual. We have seen what Peter Tosh have done. And we have seen what so many other recording artists who have taken up the philosophy of Rastafari and used music as a weapon to confront Babylon. And we may look at it now and say that, oh, a lot of things has changed and Rastafari will not be a target. But trust me, the way the youth are gravitating to Rastafari in terms of Rastafari culture, even if they don't see the philosophy fully, but the fact that dreadlocks is all over the world today, even though we know that dreadlocks is an indigenous hairstyle from all over the world and in every indigenous cultures. And we know that it started in Africa and all of that, but it was the Rastafari movement that has used it as a liberation tool and go against cultural imperialism to such an extent that it has given fear in Babylon to see the image and the character of dreadlocks. And our youth are actually pushing it to the next level by all these various styles and this whatever that they are doing that is totally anti the system. And we have also recognized that the issue of the Archimoto was a direct confrontation with colonialism. Right? Dreadlocks youth in school was a direct confrontation with colonialism because it was established to denigrate Africans, those laws and those guidelines and rules in the school. And here comes Rastafari once more with its culture, its liberation force of its culture to come up against a system, and not just a system of the school, but even the whole governmental system. So the liberty of Rastafari without sometimes even making any extra effort to resist Babylon, it becomes automatic. So clearly, we will be targeted once more. And the way situations are being polarized right now in West Africa, with the Sahel Alliance and so on and so forth, we know that eventually the Rastafari movement will play a prominent role in that. So we need to start looking to it and pay some keen attention. I just want to go into a little history, basically just to buttress my point that I made, that this is not anything new. What I'm about to say right now, are to even look at Rastafari as a liberation force. We have been a liberation force from ever since. We have been a revolutionary force from ever since. We just need to take it to the next level and to build structures and institutions and organizations to be able to meet the present realities on the ground. The battle is a little bit different because of technology and science and advancement within certain realms. So clearly, we are going to be using different approaches and different tools and so on to engage in this battlefield. So the Rastafari movement must pay keen attention to how we engage and when we engage and why we are going to engage. And the education must begin, just like Kofi Asante said that, the education is so important that they are to bring forth this platform to ensure that the members of the Rastafari community is not ill-informed, but well-informed, right? And I big that up very, very much. Okay, the Rastafari movement is a socio-political and religious-inspired resistance movement which agitates against the neo-colonial, capitalist, imperialist, racist, and Eurocentric power structure, which they call Babylon. It emerges in Jamaica in the 1930s after the coronation of Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, who is seen by many of I and I Rastafari as divine, with a critical perspective on religion, religious identity, economics, race, racism, politics, culture, and other issues. Rastafarian present a significant counter-hegemonic force, not only in the Caribbean, but globally. This presentation is based on original field research, coursework, and literature studied, executed in 4 countries, Barbados, Jamaica, Canada, and the Netherlands. It is a central question. The central question is, in what way does Rastafari as a counter-hegemonic social movement present ways of resistance to neoliberal and neo-colonial authoritarianism? The first part of the presentation shortly discuss the concept of hegemony and counter-hegemony and how these relate to the Rastafari movement. The second part shows that Rastafari resists authoritarianism, for example, through critical reggae music, a focus on self-sufficiency, and leaving the system, leaving Babylon system for alternative system. The rejection of a white God and a belief in a black God, an Afrocentric idea and identity, dreadlocks and political actions. So you see, Rastafari have been engaged with serious political actions from its inception. And as I said, not party politics, but real social political endeavors. The presentation shows how the movement has successfully been able to present a counter-hegemonic narrative for 95 years ongoing, despite the strong and at times violent repression, because when the movement started, it was serious, violent repression by colonial and neo-colonial state actors. It has also testified to the significant positive changes that they have brought into the consciousness of the oppressed masses. You see, our engagement or our advocacy did not just stay within the Rastafari community, it affected Jamaican society. And we have seen where it has spread globally, where the fight and the battle for defending our rights and our culture and so on has become so infectious all over the world that we have become an icon of peace and love, truth and justice. So it is not just for the Rastafari community, but we have impacted the world in very, very positive way, not positive ways. Not to mention the fact that we have also, impact the world in terms of our health and diet principles and guidelines through the engagement of eating natural food and sustainable agricultural products and living. So it is on many fronts. Even though the Babylon system still exists, the spirit of Rastafari resistance has encouraged people worldwide to stand up against authoritarianism. Their Rastafari resistance tactics remain applicable in the 21st century and other liberation movements which fight against capitalism, imperialism, neoliberalism, neocolonialism, classism, corruption, and racism could learn a great deal from the Rastafari movement. It is not unusual for a Rastaman to burn fire on what is happening in Ghana in terms of the corruption where politics is concerned, because that is part of our DNA from the beginning when Rastafari first, emerges. The Rastafari political action, contrary to common perspective, the Rastafari movement has always been and still is involved in politics. In this section, I will discuss several instances of political action initiated by Rastafari. This will demonstrate that I and I was correct when we argue that the Rasta movement has been at the forefront of the revolutionary process. The first Rastafari in history, Leonard P. Howell, was the man who set up Pinnacle, the first Rastafari community. He was an organizer for the Ethiopian Salvation Society and an anti-fascist organization. And he used his considerable resources to assist poor people. He called for racial awareness and argued that Haile Selassie was the Almighty and rallied to support Haile Selassie, who was fighting the fascist Italy. For this, he was put in a mental asylum. For in the eyes of the colonial state, any black man who told black people to turn their backs on the white imperial king of England must have been a madman. At the time, everybody used to call us mad in those early days. And we have moved from that stage where we are accepted somehow in society because we have, gained so much achievements within the society, even among the higher class and so on and so forth. I've seen a Rastaman who is in parliament in the UK. So a lot of things has changed. But nonetheless, the core philosophy of Rastafari, which is peace and love and fight against injustice, has still remained the same. So fundamentally, we haven't changed that much where that is concerned. Reverend, the first Rastafari, Leonard Owen, was an organizer for the Ethiopian Salvation Society and people. He called for racial awareness and argued that Haile Selassie was God and rallied to support Haile Selassie, who was fighting fascist Italy. For this, he was put in a mental asylum. For in the eyes of the colonial state, any black man who told black people to turn their backs on the white imperial king of England must have been a madman. Ras Samuel Brown, otherwise known as Sam Brown, was another early Rasta, well known for his political activism in Jamaica. He was greatly inspired by the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who he met in 1930 when he was 5 years old in the 60s. He was a leader of a group of Rastas at the Bakawal Rastafari Movement Recruitment Center camp. Ras Sam was joined in 1961. Ras Samuel joined the 1961 election for Jamaica Parliament, which was the first real attempt by a Rasta to join the field of politics. Although he only won about 100 votes, with his 21 points, he brought attention to the importance of Rastafarian community in Jamaica. These became important political talking points of the Rasta movement in the 60s. They helped the movement to be better understood on the island. The points critique governmental housing and employment policies, and the stratification of discrimination in the Jamaican society. Rassam also wrote on the importance of a political-based power source, and since it was absent at the time, he worked towards creating it. In 1966, his camp and the neighboring camp of Prince Emmanuel, the Black African National Congress, were raided and destroyed by the police. Fellow squatters on their lands who were not associated with the Rastafari movement were harassed by the police too. Just 3 years after that, the Coral Garden incident took place. This was another example of police violence in the post-independence period, demonstrated that the state did not aim to include all members of society into new definition of citizenship, but saw the poor blacks as not worthy of protection or respect. They had been relegated to spaces of squalors, and were not safe from police raids. The racial violence, which was an inherent part of colonialism, was thus carried over into the post-colonial state. This can partly be explained by the fact that before legal independence was achieved, the colonial powers had successfully created local elites who had Western interests at heart. Local elites mainly aimed to install themselves in the colonial places rather than transform the society. The Rastafari in Rodney's research called them white-hearted. They serve the interests of a foreigner, white capitalist system, and at home they uphold a social structure which ensures that the black man resides at the bottom of the social ladder. According to Meeks, one needs to comprehend both the international conjuncture and the local political ideas on the micro level. When trying to understand why people rebel, a good example is Grenada. In that country, Rastas played an important part in the Grenadian Revolution. There was more than 400 Rastas involved in the overthrow of Gary the dictator in March 1979. 400 Rastas, involved in the overthrow of that dictator in 1979 through the People's Revolutionary Army. So there was a legal part of the army. They were part of the army with their dreadlocks in the army, officially built by the government. They openly took up their position in the political arena in the Free West Indian of July 5, 1980, they wrote the following. The founding principles of the Rastafari faith directed that we should at all costs serve the people in truth and in right. So it behoves us to state emphatically and clearly the position of Rastafari on issues of temporal realities such as socialism and communism, which is opposed to capitalism, underdevelopment, and imperialism. Rastafari must take their proper place in the Third World Revolution struggle against dictatorship and against oppression. Rastas cannot and must not become the pawn of reactionary capitalists in their attempt to maintain imperialism. Thus, they felt that there was no need to struggle only in or for Africa. They wanted to mobilize Rastas wherever they lived and combine both international and local political ideas in their philosophies. After the revolution, the Rastas continued to hold political leadership accountable and remain involved in the political struggle for equal rights. And I will end right here. I would like to say, in the context of Ghana, I and I here as Rastafari must understand our historical roots, our historical realities that has brought us to where we are. We should not deviate from our roots, because that is what will give us the strength to move forward. Yes, a lot of us have been aligning ourselves with the religious aspect and the spiritual aspect of Rastafari, which is good because within religion there's also a liberation, revolutionary force, and within spirituality is the same thing because spirituality and religion is all about truth and justice. Granted, man have taken it and have created a lot of divisiveness. We do not expect the Rastafari movement to continue on that trajectory. We expect that Rastafari will use religion and will use spirituality as a liberation tool, just like we have done in the beginning of the movement. Today, I am seeing that the movement overall is a bit, I would say, fragmented, but that fragmentation, I think, also give it some kind of opportunity to spread its wings and to be able to have different entities of Rastafari throughout the world in a stealthy kind of a way. So it seems to be working out very good as long as we recognize that, as Kwame Nkrumah said, organization determines everything. As long as we realize that it's important to build formidable organizations and to also ensure that those organizations function effectively, then we won't have a problem. It is important for the Rastafari youth to remember the teachings of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Remember the teachings of Dr. Walter Rodney, Amilcar Cabral, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Subuke from South Africa, George Padmore, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, and others. And today, we have our neighbor, Ibrahim Traore, who have set a perfect example for us to emulate and to see and to be inspired by. And I think the Rastafari movement should really play a key role in the liberation struggle of Burkina Faso or the Sahel Alliance. We should organize ourselves, study first and foremost, just like Kofi Asante emphasized the importance of education. We must understand what is happening there. We need to understand clearly why Ibrahim Traore was able to come out and be effective in the way in which he has been effective. And the reason why is that Thomas Sankara laid a solid revolutionary, scientific, socialist, revolutionary Pan-African foundation in Burkina Faso. And that is what Traore is living by today and is utilizing. They have set up strong cells, community organization, cooperatives that is still functioning from that time, even within the army. That is why Traore and others could have so many coups and counter coups over there, and some of the leaders, they still have a certain level of political education. We need, as Rastafari, to study what is happening there and to get close to Burkina Faso, to get close or closer to the Sahel Alliance, because that is our struggle, that is our movement. And I'm sure that the brothers and sisters over there are expecting Rastafari to play a role, because we have a long legacy and history in the world, not just in Ghana, not just in Jamaica, but in the world. People in the world know that we represent truth, rights, and justice. They are fully aware that we are prepared to die. During the liberation movement in South Africa, so many Rastas from all over and in Jamaica were ready to go and die on the front line if necessary, on the front line for the freedom of South Africa. So we are not alien to this task. And I think that Ghana needs to see the Rastafari movement engaging on a stronger political front and also on a stronger liberation front. I am saying this to say that the Rastafari movement must identify a few important key areas that we need to give key attention to. One is political engagement. Two is to continue with the long historical legacy, to stand with the poor and oppressed. Rastafari must be engaged with the legitimate struggles of the people. That means we must be seen, just like what happened with the Achimota case. We were able to confront colonialism and defeat it so that the rest of society can realize that they have a right to their culture. They have a right to their religion. Even the Muslims benefited from our action, right? And we have demonstrated that practically, right? And we have done it without firing one gunshot. So we use the same principles of Rastafari: peace, love, determination, and the quest for justice to achieve that. So the same way we're able to achieve that. Any other issues in the government in the country that are oppressive and unjust, the Rastafari movement can take it up and fight those battles and win them in the same way by using the same principles. Rastafari must study the politics, the social and economic policies of the government, because it is with the understanding of the policies of the government that you will be able to know how to engage. Rastafari must provide alternatives. That means we are coming with our ideas and solutions and input to add to what the government is doing there. The Rastafari movement must once more be seen as the voice of the voiceless. So many injustices going on here in the country, and it is very important for the voice of Rastafari to come out, even if it's just a few lines, to state clearly that we are in opposition to it. It doesn't have to be a long press statement or anything like that. But as soon as it happens, the Rastafari voice must be heard. Because at the end of the day, when we are correct, the people will say, yes, the Rastafari people are always right, and they will tend to give us their support more as soon as they see that they are benefiting from us in that way. So we must continue being the voice of the voiceless. The Rastafari movement must encourage Rastafari youth to gain higher education in the academic fields within the country. It's very, very important. Rastafari must study history of Africa and the global themes. Rastafari must capitalize on its appreciated cultural influences globally. We have been able to use our culture to open so many doors, but we have not been able to capitalize off it economically. We have to find ways and means to capitalize off it by copyrighting our intellectual property, having those rights, and capitalize off it just like other people are doing presently, because the movement need finances as a tool and as a weapon to be able to open so many doors. The Rastafari movement was begin to form study groups or become a part of a study group, existing study group. If we cannot form our own study group, we need to have a relationship with some of our allies. That we attend their study groups. We may not agree with their philosophy, but we'll be able to learn and get engaged and even build up an alliance with them. So that in the future, if the time comes for united front, we have already had a good relationship with them. Final thing is that we can go back to the days when Howell had a community of 4,800 members, and they were all in the cultivation of marijuana in terms of its cultivation and its processing, and it was one of the strongest economic foundations for the movement. Granted, we know that it is illegal presently, both of them, both hemp and the marijuana itself. But the Rastafari movement should have no fear where that is concerned, because it is that boldness and that sacrifices that have been able to keep the ganja globally getting all kind of legalities, doors open here and doors open there for people to legally have access to it. So we should continue in that lane to free up the herb and to utilize it for our economic benefit. It is time for the Rastafari movement to earn serious financial benefit from the from the ganja movement, from the ganja cultivation and the hemp cultivation, because we have suffered the most. We have sacrificed the most for that plant to be able to be spreading all over the world. And it shouldn't be a situation like what is happening in Jamaica, where the Rasta community is marginalized, is left out of it. So it's another era for us to pay keen attention, and we should actually look into establishing a agro-industrial and cultivation processing marijuana and hemp factory collectively, not individually. There are so many Rasta brethren who are in the business cultivated legally and illegally. But at the same time, there's nothing collectively being done for the Rastafari community. It's time for us to start look into collectively operating farms that the families of those farmers can benefit, and the Rastafari community must benefit. Right? It is a blessing that was given to us by Jah Almighty, Rastafari, all over the world. Anywhere you go in the world, marijuana is there as an economic savior for any Rastaman who want to be economically empowered. So we shouldn't have all of that fear and have all of that apprehension of not engaging in it. We have passed that stage. We have sacrificed too much and come to this level. And we have to push it all the way to ensure that the plant is freed up. And if it means that we have to take all of those risks and make those sacrifices until it happens, we should do it. So I will end my presentation here, my Lord, and give thanks for the opportunity to be able to make this presentation. Rastafari.
Rastafari.
Give thanks.
Yes, sir. My Lord, we give thanks for the presentation. History, religion, spirituality.
My Lord, let me interrupt
yes,
you
my
one
Lord.
minute. I forget to mention that I saw where the government is training national service, giving national service military training. The Rastafari community should make opportunity of that, because it's legal, and they will train you in terms of military strategies and applications, etc., how to use arms, how to clean them, this, that. The Rastafari community should not be left out of that. So we have to find a way of how to present to the government and let them know that our community wants to be a part. And we have a lot of youth who have done national service. Give thanks, sir. Sorry for the interruption.
Yes, my Lord, we appreciate that addition too. Yes, we give thanks for the presentation. You've taken us a lot through history, historical perspective, and some of the things we've been able to achieve as Rastafari. You've dealt very well on the topic Rastafari as an African liberation force. And like the reasoning permits, brothers have listened to the presentation and may also have comments, questions to share. So at this stage, we invite brothers to comment, ask questions, contribute to the reasoning. Still on the topic, Rastafari as an African liberation force. So we give thanks to Rasaswad for the presentation, and we'll now invite comments, questions, and contributions. I give thanks. Yes, brothers. Whilst brothers prepare to put across their contributions or question, my lord, I'll come in with a question or something that I want to hear your perspective on. Now, in your submission, you made the point that Rastafari is not a religious movement. From its inception, has been more about a liberation force. We look at activities of mansions like 12 Tribes of Israel, mansions like Bobo Shanti, and we see a heavy religious presence in our activities. Um, how does this, um, when you say that Rastafari is not a religious movement, and bearing in mind that most of our mansions, our character is like we look like a religious body. How do you explain to a youth that it's not a religious movement when mostly our activities are concerned with religious activities like Sabbath keeping, Bible chanting, and all that? Give thanks, my Lord.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Um, Over the years, because of the Bible, the intervention of the Bible within the Rastafari movement, we have been able to utilize the Bible with various interpretations from different angles. Because if you notice, within Rastafari, there are some brethren who interpret the Bible different ways. Some keep Sabbath, some don't keep Sabbath. Some believe that you don't have to be dread to be a Rasta, and so many different diverse um, views and concepts and ideologies. Right? Those things, I think, it help to keep us a little bit divided. And when you go back to the history of it, one of the greatest influence on the Rastafari movement is the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And Marcus Garvey, while Marcus Garvey was religious, his religious aspect of it didn't um, supersede the liberation struggle and liberation movement. He was very clear as regards to what was necessary for the black man to be free and be liberated. And while he recognized spirituality and religion as part of it, it was not paramount like we see the Rastafari movement is doing today throughout the world. To me, I find it as escapism. I find it in a way where the Rastas today do not want to take responsibility for their actions, and we do not want to take responsibility and chart our destiny of ourselves. We depend on the Bible philosophy of leaving everything to Jesus, leave everything to God. And they say the same thing about Rastafari. It's just Jah. We leave it to Jah, right? But how could you be leaving your responsibility to Jah when Jah have given you all the necessary tools, the necessary skills? The human brain is of such that we are only using a very small fraction of it. And the Almighty, I Selassie, God Almighty, have given you that brain, right? To do so many things, to build so many things, to provide collective security and all these different things. But at the end of the day, you're still calling upon Jah and telling Jah to help you to do this and to help you to do that. To me, I see it as ingratitude. I see it as ingratitude because of the fact that the human body has so much capabilities and power. You look at those runners who run so many miles in Jamaica and being able to become champion on the field. You look at all these sports and personalities and the musicians and the technicians and the scientists. They have been able to utilize that to empower themselves and do so much. To me, that is showing gratitude to the Almighty by applying what has been given to you by Jah, rather than praying and praying and praying and leaving things to Jah. I cannot see how Jah would even recognize some of the prayers because the Almighty has given you sunshine, rain, rivers, mountains, so many plants and herbs, and all these things are there for us to deal with our problems. Yet we sit and we pray and pray and pray and pray. And that is the character that the Rastafari movement have taken on, which is very counterproductive and counter-revolutionary. The Rasta movement must grow past that. I am all for spirituality because spirituality and science is one, right? The science was taken out of spirituality, came out of spirituality, right? Religion was supposed to be able to bring man together, to be able to identify the Almighty, because some people don't know the Creator and so on and so forth. So they form these religions to be able to give them ways and means to see the Creator. But when you get to that point, you must look at liberation theology. You must look at liberation theology to free yourself from the oppression that you are under presently, right? So it is counterproductive, as I say, and it's very backward for Rasta to be moving along those lines and seeing that as paramount over the fact that we have already been blessed with so many abilities to make so much things happen. When we went to court to deal with the issue, it was a clear issue of law. It was a legal issue. And all it was required was for someone to study the legal issue. And we, if thanks to a lawyer like Rastafari Tete, who understood the law and was able to apply it, right? And the willingness and the support of the Rastafari community coming behind and backing it and pushing the advocacy in the media, back and forth and so on and so forth. It was not a situation where people sat down and prayed for it to happen. It was sacrifices. It was applying your knowledge, applying your education, applying your tenacity and strength and your willpower that made it happen. And if you look at all the leaders that I mentioned just now, that's what they use to be able to achieve, what they're achieving. Thomas Sankara is a Muslim. The other day when one of those countries from on the Arab region came and gave him an offering 200 mosques, what did he say? He said, yes, give thanks. But that is not what people need right now. They need school, they need healthcare, they need this, they need that, they need employment. And that's a practical man. And that's where Rastafari need to go because the religion is private. Your religion and your spirituality is a private and personal thing. That's between you and the Almighty. See, it's not something that you must be dogmatic about it, that you have to be broadcasting it and pushing it and creating divisive and sectarianism within the community. It's time for us to grow past that, and we have gone beyond that. And where the battle is right now, it's very important for us to find ways and means to use that as liberation theology. Make that transformation with it. There's so much belief in religious practices and religious advocacy and all those different things. Let us try and turn it into a more productive and more forceful endeavor.
Yes, sir. Give thanks. Have you come through?
Rastafari.
Yes, Rastafari, yes, my lord.
Blessed
Well, my lord. Let's respect my
yes,
lord.
yes. Enough respect, Rastafari.
I am blessed one. Blessed. I see that.
Yes, every time. Give thanks. Live on Radio Culture, iCulture TV too. Yes, give thanks. Yes, so I want to start by saying that I sign up with everything that you have said, especially when it comes to Rastafari's role in the politics of the communities that we live in. I just want to make I have some point that I hope I can get time to, speak a little more about. But for now, I just want to engage a little bit on the points that were just made about religion or Rastafari as a religious entity. I'll start by saying that everything is good for what it is good for, and religion, Africans are inherently religious. We have to understand ourselves as a people. We are a people who, Cape Coast, back in the day, before it was named Cape Coast, Ogwa, I think it was called, had 99 gods. People have their own personal deities and stuff like that. We are inherently religious. We, by nature, by our DNA, have a certain connection with the supernatural. Now, we have been through a period of brainwash and whitewash and being given a deity in a certain form to worship. If you yank that away, we have to replace that with something. Otherwise, there's going to be a dangerous void. And I can mention some scenarios back in the day where people started actually, defragmentizing what we had already built. I'll give a quick example. Back in the day in Legon, there were these brethren who would be like, oh, you people, you are from Ghana, but you're following somebody from Ethiopia as God, which we have to go to our hometown and go. That type of thing, So we need to fill that void. Otherwise, it's going to lend itself to its own various forms of interpretation according to whoever is ready to come in there and take advantage of that void. And I feel like this is where entities like the Rastafari organizations come in. Because if it is the Bible that anybody's connecting with, they can actually take that Bible and make the connection to Haile Selassie I, His Majesty, But I agree with you totally. It should not end there. Because, again, if we say that even by I and I coming together under the banner of His Majesty is enough proof that we actually do sign on to some religious, element to that. Otherwise, why would we even, assign all the divinity to His Majesty? Unless, of course, we are not assigning divinity to His Majesty. If you are assigning divinity to His Majesty, then there's a certain element of religiousness there, But I prefer to call it spirituality, to be honest with you. I think religion probably is the wrong term to use, being as we know what religion has been used to achieve. I would rather go for spirituality. That said, however, I would also want to say that Africans need to go beyond prayer, just like you said, Ras, as well. Because let's even take the Rastafari community out. If you take the extended community into consideration, you find people who are going to church, who are going to all these type of other places, who would put their passports in some places and have oil poured on them and stuff like that because they feel like that's going to make some. We need to go beyond that. We really need to get practical. We need to get practical as a people. And I completely sign on with that with you. I just wanted to make the point that we probably don't want to disengage completely from the element of Rastafari that people would call religious, which I would prefer to call spirituality. Right? Because if we do that, then we're leaving a void which can be capitalized on by some, unknown forces. And let me just make this quick point, which hopefully we can maybe talk about later. There's this thing going around where people are trying to be like, Black people in the diaspora, i.e., people in, I don't mean people like us, like myself, living in the diaspora. I mean people who were taken away, right? Are a different nation from Africa. And I see that thing gaining root, gaining ground. It's something we have to nip in the bud because I see that Babylon is trying to create a different nation outside of Mother Africa to use as a tool to fight INI in Mother Africa. That's what's going on. Let's be very careful about that. Piggybacking to the point you made, Ras, about Traore, our beloved Brethren Traore, just to the north of Ghana right now. You see who's leading the charge? They take somebody and then of our own type. And he is the one that's leading the charge against Traore right now. And if you dig down into it, these will be people who have been convinced that they were sold away, so they do not even belong to the continent of Africa anymore. They're a different nation. I heard this talk about if you're in Africa, you have a country, so you can, or you have a continent, so you are African. You cannot be black. You can only be black when you live out, when you don't have a nation. What kind of thinking is that? How about Haiti, for instance? Haiti is not in Africa, but they're black as coal. How about Haiti? What type of thinking is that? That type of thinking is only the foundation of building a heavy divide between I and I, the children, and the children that were taken away. First of all, they said, yes, your brother sold you. Oh no, they sold you. Go blame them. Now they're telling you, oh, you're not even part of them anymore. You are black. They are African. You're different. So they can send a black person against an African leader. Let's think about that too. Give thanks.
Yeah.
Rastafari.
Rastafari.
Yes, Rastafari. So, my lord, Rasaswad, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah. Okay, I will start with the religious aspect of it. You know, within the African context, religion is culture, you know. The religion of Africa is their culture. It is not an isolated situation or experience or manifestation. It is part of their culture, right? And every indigenous cultures have some religious connotation to it, right? Throughout the world, whether you be black or you be Indian or you be whatever. That's an indigenous connection with the creator through their culture. It is different from when it is institutionalized by colonialism, and Rastafari have been able to try and use it in the same way, right? Like, for instance, when 12 tribe get up and say, greetings in the name of our Father, Jesus Christ, and whatever. It shouldn't happen. Because we have many names within Africa that can be used with a certain level of empowerment, because we know the definition and the meaning of names in Africa. But yet still we call it on a name that we don't even know the meaning. What does Jesus mean? Right? And Christ is not even a name. It is a way of life. Right? So all of those things, clarity must be put to them by Rastafari and give it proper definition. Because Rastafari was able to be very, very critical to be able to use word sound and get power out of it by turning it around and giving it the right name, expression, and all of that, so that it can serve us, not for us to become bondage to it. Because when you get up and you say Jesus, it's like you're empowering the white man, because that's all you see. Even though we say black Jesus, it's not something that we really fully believe in. We just try to find a way to replace that image. Then we say black Jesus. But we know where Christianity came from, right? We know the identity and the symbolism and all that came out of ancient Egypt and ancient Ethiopia. It was a stolen, iconic figure that they used to empower the white race, to deceive black people. So we shouldn't try to encourage those things as Rastafari, because we had burned fire upon all those things long time, way back in the Rastafari movement, way back. And for us now to bring that to Africa and spreading it in Africa, where there is so much African retention and culture here that everywhere you go, you see it. All these villages have their own deities and their own iconic figure from a religious and spiritual standpoint. So if we are looking for something to represent us or something to empower us, it's not like we're in Jamaica where it was limited because language was taken away, culture was taken away, and all of that. Yes, we will stay in Jamaica and was able to side up Haile Selassie and use that name as an Ethiopian name, right? So why can't we here in Africa, especially in Ghana, where there's over 32 million people and several different, whole lot of different cultures and religious persuasion and all of that. This is where we need to tap into. For me personally, I thought that when Rastafari left Jamaica and come over here in the continent, we would be empowered by what was left behind. Ancient African traditional religion, ancient African traditional spirituality and culture to empower the movement to put it to the next level because we were limited in Jamaica. That's why we had to create so many different ways and means. But now we have access to it, direct access to it right here on the continent. So Rastafari should really be tapping into those powers and use it as part of the liberation force. That is why I'm saying that Rastafari should see religion from a liberation theological perspective, so that it is separated from the Babylonian ways of seeing religion. Right? The issue of the diaspora thing is that one of the things that we have to remember about diaspora, especially Black Americans, then comes the ones in the UK. They have been damaged seriously, my lord. Trust me. They say they are prisoners of war, but they are worse than prisoners of war. They have been seriously, mentally, psychologically, and even physically damaged by colonialism, racism, slavery, and now imperialism, neocolonialism inside of those countries. So sometimes I pity the Black Americans in particular. We're in Jamaica, we had a little more leverage because our connection was direct to, say, to Ghana and other places, Nigeria and so on. And we were able to maintain that cultural retention much stronger and more intimately than they were able to do because they were saturated by all these evil white people. So I pity them a lot of times in terms of how they handle a lot of the issues of repatriation with a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, and you know, rudeness, and so many different ways. But it's their environment that has created them like they were engineered to be that way. So the repatriation movement require a certain amount of what do you call it now? Some level of ritual and some level of psychological therapy should take place where the repatriation is concerned. It should be embedded in the citizenship aspect of it. Those needs should be identified because the man who's coming from the US, he's coming straight off a battlefield, you know, with a lot of issues, right? And because the government itself is not clear as regards to what repatriation is, and that political will to implement it is not really there, especially the last government. They were just looking at money and to try and give themselves some popularity at the state power and all of that. So they dealt with it from a very wrong foot. The last time they did 524 or whatever it is, citizens. And the kind of terrible things that took place behind the scene in terms of, you know, lack of transparency and all these different things. You know, people who have never been to Ghana before just fly in one day and they're able to get their citizenship and all kind of madness and so on and so forth. So the government need to really have a policy, a clearly defined policy that is Pan-African oriented. They must study and understand the issue of the transatlantic slave trade, what happened over there, present needs of the people. And they must also recognize that if you're going to ask them to come back, you must be able to have a budget to take care of them. Because a lot of them, they are used to their welfare system. They are used to their different pension schemes and so many different things that they are used to from that system. Right? And I'm saying that even Ghanaians here need to have those things because we have enough resources in this country that it shouldn't be only for the diaspora because they're used to it, but it should be across the board where these resources be utilized, just like what's happening in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is a perfect example that it's possible for people to have free education. It's possible for people to have good free health care, housing and all these different things. It is possible. You just have to have the political will to make up your mind that you're ready to die, homeland or death. Right? And it's that kind of leadership that we need right now so that the diasporans and the African diaspora looking at the West And even the Ghanaian diaspora, the ones who have left here and gone over there, and even their way of life has changed as a result of living there for a while. We have to find a way to put them together as one that is coming out of a system like that who is suffering, because whether you come from Ghana or you're born in the United States, you are still a nigger, and they will treat you the same way over there. There's no difference, right? So that unity is very, very important. And the government is the one who has the key for it. Like, for instance, now, they have so many different diaspora organizations here in Ghana. They have so many different diaspora organizations. And when time comes for citizenship, they're all fighting over each other. Whose quota will go in, who will get this amount, fight for this set of people, that one fight for that set of people, and they're fighting against themselves. It's not done in a united order. And the government can put an end to that by saying that you will get no citizenship unless you come to one organization. So get yourself together. That is all the government need to do. But serve the government, especially the last government, because they use it as a divisive tool to turn one against the other and do whatever they're doing. But Mama coming into power now need to seize that and come forth and make sure that the diaspora community come under one order, one organization. Whether they're going to put all the organizations together and form one organization, whatever it is that they're going to do, but the representation to government must come through one entity, because the diaspora community needs to be united, right? And if you leave them alone or leave us alone, we are going to have our own little splinter organization and create more divisiveness than anything else. So yes, I see the point that the Bridget is raising, and we have to consider the context of a lot of these diasporas that are coming in. Their minds are messed up big time. A lot of them coming in with all kind of traumatic experiences, etc., etc. And that has to be dealt with from a spiritual level as well, you know, on a cultural level. You see, look at Thomas Ibrahim Traore. He's utilizing his culture alongside his revolutionary Pan-African scientific socialist agenda that he's doing right now in Burkina Faso. Culture being overlapped with and spirituality. Right? So we have to take a leaf out of what is happening in Burkina Faso to help regulate and streamline what is happening and about to happen in Ghana. So that's the most I have to say about that, my lord.
Give thanks, my lord, for your response. Yes. So, Raz, please, we can still ask questions, make comments, contributions to the presentation made. We are still discussing Rastafari as an African liberation force. Yes, please, does anybody want to share a comment, question, or make a contribution?
I just want to read something from Amil Cabral until Bridget are ready. And Cabral was talking about culture and resistance. And he says the value of culture as an element of resistance, foreign domination, lies in the fact that culture is the vigorous manifestation of the ideological plane of the physical and historical reality of the society that is dominated or to be dominated. Culture is simultaneously the fruit of a people's history by the positive or negative influence which it exerts on the evolution of the relationship between man and his environment, among men or groups of men within a society, as well as different societies. Ignorance of this fact may explain the failure of several attempts at foreign domination, as well as the failure of some liberation movements. End of quote. So I thought I would just, interject that in, when I heard my brethren was talking about the African spirituality. It is based within the culture, and that is why that is a strong difference. There are clear difference between what racists are doing, because racists now are just taking things out of Jamaica, which some of it is not even relevant to the context of Ghana, because we are living in a different society that has so much more to offer than what Jamaica had to offer. And Jamaicans had to just create and make do with whatever was available. And we have grown past a stage. Even just the fact that we have repatriated is a major, major advancement and development with the movement by us leaving Jamaica and coming to Africa and not looking back. Right? And that is something that we had prayed for and worked for generations, and we have accomplished it. But that should be recognized, you know, and be put to use. Yes, Jamaica started the movement a certain kind of way and have a lot to offer in terms of experience, so on and so forth, and historical legacy and so on. But the movement must grow based on its present reality.
Give thanks, my Lord.
Rastafari.
Please, does anybody have a question, comment, or contribution to make? Yes, I see Thomas, a law student who has written to the council to go to court when it comes to our sacramental use of cannabis as Rastafari. Thomas, we thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, questions based on the presentation, you are free to share.
Thank you too. But no questions for now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, bro.
All right, let me say something about this. If he's not ready to say anything, let me say something on that issue. The sacramental aspect of it is something that it must be addressed from a legal and a scientific standpoint.
Ras, before you go into that, can I ask a question based on your presentation so that it also adds up to the sacramental question so that you deal with it in general? Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yes, my Lord, one of the things you recommended is to propose for Rastafari to propose or offer alternatives to maybe government ideas or whatever. So when it was announced that cannabis had been decriminalized in Ghana, a lot of people went to celebrate the decriminalization of cannabis in Ghana, only to be told that it's hemp that has actually people. It's like Ghana is going to only explore the medicinal industrial use of hemp and not cannabis in general. So in offering alternatives to government in terms of what the Rastafari community wants, because we realized that the passage of the NACOC bill didn't really address Rastafari needs when it comes to our use of cannabis. So in making alternate proposal to government, what would you recommend as alternate, since the hemp question didn't really answer the Rastafari need when it comes to cannabis? I'm sure this can be tied with the sacramental rights. I give thanks.
Okay, yes, sir. I think what need to happen is that since we are at a stage now where the only thing that is left for the hemp to be introduced in the system is the fees for the license. I think the Rastafari community must fight to get a license. And the Rastafari community must push for the license fee to come out and to be reasonable. Yeah, the Rastafari community must push for the fees to be very reasonable and accessible to the Rastafari community and the general populace. As far as I understand, they are about to do that in terms of bringing forward the license. The Rastafari community should not be left out where this license is concerned, because the Rastafari community needs economic strength and power to do so many things. And this is an opportunity for the Rastafari community to be empowered financially, economically, so that we can implement so many other things. So since that is there and accessible to us, we should get it. Once we get that, we employ a team of lawyers. We ourselves don't have to fight that battle, because we are advocates. We can inform the lawyers and teach them certain things. Somebody like Keggs, who have been studying this thing for a long while, and other ones who have been studying it, should come with the scientific information and feed the lawyers with all of that. Let them go to Parliament or go to court and fight that battle for the next one to be free. Right? At the same time, the advocates have to be able to counter the negative influences of some of the institutions like the churches and so on and so forth who are against the marijuana itself. It's going to be a battle. That's one of the reasons why we didn't go straight to that in the beginning, because the battle to fight these people was very, 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 very arduous. And we recognize that. So we say, okay, let us go ahead and try and get him. Start from the understanding of the people, because even with hemp is not even an illegal plant, because it's not a narcotic plant. 0.3 is nothing. So they have even classified in a wrong kind of a way. So we shouldn't even be going to court or going to Parliament to free that up, because it is not a narcotic plant, right? And that's where the error started from the beginning. So even though it's not narcotic, the people still, in their ignorance, is afraid of it and chatting all kind of stupidness up until today. So can you imagine the real ganja now that will make you feel high and give you some vibes and whatever, how they're going to fight it? So we have to prepare for it properly in terms of a national educational plan. This is why we need the money in my lab. This is why we need the money out of the M. So we can really, really do some proper education. And it's going to require funding, going to require funds to spend here and there and whatever, to spread this information nationally and to prove your point, right? And to also be able to, utilize all the necessary community organizations access to be able to pass that information on to them. It's going to require a lot. And remember, so we have a lot of villages to go to and all these different places. Yeah, Accra is a population by itself, but all those people who live in those villages and so on, so they need to have all those information. So it's a major task that we have to take on, and it should be forward from that level. Get a team of lawyers, some lawyers that we can pay, not pro bono like we have done in the past, because pro bono sometimes the lawyers are just tired and they have a family to feed and all these different things. So we have to get money, my lord. We have to be financially empowered, and the MP is there to make us financially empowered. Because apart from selling the biomass as a raw material, we can go into so many value-added products that we can utilize locally and on the continent as well. I'm not even talking about international markets, but locally. It can produce so many things, replace so many things that we import. For instance, something like coal that we buy, charcoal, fire coal, that we use every single day. They have to cut down massive trees that have been growing for years to make those charcoal. When you can get it from the end in 4 months, right? So many other things, even things that they import from overseas, that we can stop the importation of those and generate that money inside out of there. So I think the Rasta community need to look into that and have a strength in that end while fighting the battle to free up the herb and for the sacramental aspect of it. They are not going to just give Rastafari that freedom to utilize the herb like that right now without going to court and fighting that battle in court and winning them based on the Constitution. We use the Constitution just like we use for the dreadlocks. That's what we have to. That's what we have to deal with that. Use it just like how we deal with it for the dreadlocks and the African culture. Freedom and rights to express yourself for your religion and all that. Same way we have to do it. But you need a strong legal team and to be able to sustain them for that battle. And I'm sure that if you use the Constitution and you have a good legal team, you'll win it in court. Because the laws are there. It's not that they are not there. It's just that people have been testing them and utilizing them and all of that. And I think that's the way the Rastafari community must go. Rather than we putting ourselves out there fighting for that cause. Right? When at the end of the day, we still have to go to court to win it. You know, we can do the advocacy to educate and show the people this and show them that and so on and so forth. And recently there was a article in the newspaper from the Biafra Rastafari group about President Mahama said that within 100 days he's going to legalize marijuana. There was no such thing. Hemp and that marijuana is two different things. As I said before, hemp is not even a narcotic plant. Right? And what Rastafari is fighting for is for the ganja to come out. The real deal. That's what we're fighting for. So when they make that statement, it was a wrong statement, and then they made a statement that that's what Mahama said. He didn't say anything like that. Right? So things like that, we cannot afford to be putting ourselves on the line like that because people won't take us serious. And to give them ammunition to shoot down any attempt. That is why we need the lawyers up front. And a few activists that go to court with the lawyer and guide them. This is what we want. This is what we want. Provide them with scientific information, economic information, so on and so forth. And feed them with it and let them fight that battle while we stay behind and if we have to go do some public advocacy to bring publicity to the case and so on and so forth, then we do that publicly with numbers of Rastafari. But they should be at the front with a few advocates, few Rastafari advocates alongside them doing it. And that's a strategy I feel that needs to be used.
Yes, give thanks, my Lord, for your response.
Rastafari.
Please, any more comments, questions, contributions? Yes, Thomas said your response is very well said. The law student, he appreciates the response you just said, yes. So, my lords, please, let's engage. We're discussing Rastafari as an African Liberation Force. I see Prof. Imhotep is here. I see Rasanochi. Seven Fireside is here. Daddy B, please, any of you with a comment, question, contribution, we appreciate. Jamati.
Greetings.
Rastafari.
Rastafari.
Yeah, give thanks for the helpful reasoning. Although I didn't get that, I can fully appreciate it. But knowing where Razazwad is coming from, I know he's put forth some solid ideas for Rastafari to work as a liberation force in Africa. I picked up on where he was talking about the futility of transposing certain things from Jamaica straight here. Indeed, there's a need for an African perspective on a lot of things. And I look forward to more of these reasonings so that we can be able to, as it were, get onto a certain page. As we're speaking, the brethren in Jamaica right now are also having a Zoom on reparations. And I want to believe that as we've done great work on the issue of repatriation to the extent that the state of Ghana nearly every year grants citizenship, and it's been a tradition since 2016. I believe the conversation of reparations will also come to the front. And I here on the motherland will also be engaging in that space. Quickly, I'd like to talk about alliances and networking. What it is we cannot do it alone as Rastafari, so we need to build the right alliances with the Pan African community and like minded Africans, because I believe the ultimate is to see to the unity and reconstruction of Africa. Give thanks.
Rastafari. Thanks, sir.
Shlasia. If I may, I'd also like to talk a bit about the issue of the cannabis. It seems there's a lot of misinformation out there. And if you look at the recent press conference by the Befi Chrome Nabinge House, it is perpetuating that misinformation because that press conference and the statement they issued made it seem like cannabis has been legalized and is just left with the president to sign. That is far from the truth. It is hemp that has been legalized and is pending what you call it, the release of the LI, like Aswad said. And so in our advocacy and in our public pronouncements, we have to draw the distinction so that certain youths and youths are not misinformed and misled down a confrontational path. It has to be clear that cannabis is still illegal in Ghana, and it is hemp with 0.3 THC that has been legalized, so that if this communication is clearly articulated, it would put the situation in a clear perspective, and youths won't think that cannabis has been legalized. Give thanks.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. It's correct.
The last thing I like to say is the Katapa online headline, which said Rastafarians Council. You see, it's not everybody who would say Rastafarians Council is not the same as Rastafari Council. And so we have to do a lot of engagement to make ones and ones appreciate that sometimes when certain statements are made in the name of the council, we have to be very, very careful, you know. And I don't know if Man and Man have seen the apology from the Niger State governor, because some people are still of the view that there is the need for a statement. But the man has apologized, you know, so let's move on. It's just that some village in some region, I don't even know. The chief has said that dreadlock the Rastafari is not welcome in his space. And somebody said we shouldn't even waste time on him because he's trying to make his village popular using Rastafari. Give thanks. Yeah, it's true. It's some chief from some village that today is the first time that I heard the name of the village. You know, so some of these people, they are just distractions, and we don't have to waste our time on them.
Yeah. It's true.
Why the chief say waiting? The chief say no one see Rastafari in place.
Yeah, I've shared the link. It's a Facebook thing, and I'll put it on the council platform.
You
So later
you have a bad dream, I'm telling you. That very night after he said that, all his ancestors are going to advise him and visit him and advise him in his dreams that night.
All right.
He was trying to do what they did in the 30s in Jamaica, where you rally the forces against the negative forces against the Rasta community, where they could even kill them.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying. That's kind of sentiment he was trying to whip up.
Yeah, and that's an old thing in Ghana as well. We've been through that, you know. We've been through that already. Like,
Wow.
yeah, there was a time where, let me give you an example. The time when Osama bin Laden, you know, was on the news for having done whatever he did and all of that, and whatever he's accused of having done and all of that. And just because racists have beards, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just that common factor. Just that common factor.
Yeah.
Ask anybody who was around Ghana in those times. I'm just saying, ask anybody. One day, I remember this thing very much. Kumasi, I was walking around, you know, just got out of a trotro and I was walking to my home and everything. And it was our next trotro that was passing. And then the mate on the thing just saw me with my full regal beard and everything. It was like, hey, yo, Osama. And then everybody else just burst out laughing. And I was like, what do I have in common with Osama? Oh, my beard. You know? So we've been tagged with everything.
Yeah.
Everything. You know, but it's shocking that after this, all that has happened, you know, and Rasta has been true and Rasta has shown positive examples to kind of, you know, just mash that thing out. It's shocking to see that in this day and age, somebody's so practicing that. You know what I'm saying? It's just funny. It's extremely funny.
Somebody was even telling him that if Burna Boy come to his community, he's going to kill him. So
ignorance.
In the meantime, let me say something else. This March that is coming up on the 30th, a show of solidarity with Chore, the Rastafari community should not let it go without our presence. We must have a banner, or we have a placard, and some flags, and our presence must be there, my lord. We cannot let this pass, and the Rasta community is not seen on the front line. We shouldn't let it pass.
Yes.
Chore must see us in Burkina Faso, that the Rasta community is in solidarity with it.
Yes.
What is happening on the 30th?
They're having an international march, demonstration in support of Chore against the United States Armed Forces. So they're calling on every African country to come out and demonstrate on that day. Just show a sign of solidarity. In the United States, the big cities are planning to organize something like the Million Man March.
And in Ghana, where is it happening?
Well, there is no organization there yet. I haven't seen any organized body. I just hear different people saying, yeah, we are coming out, but no exact information yet. We still have a few more days for people to show themselves. But the community, Rastafari community, should be ready that we go there on that day, regardless of who is out there. We should have a sign.
I think we should try and check in with the Socialist Forum and see if they are doing something. If not, at the very least, we should be able to put out a statement, even if we don't have like an actual demonstration. We can put out a statement, you know, at the very least. But I believe if there's anything going to be happening, the Socialist Forum should be involved with that.
Yes, and the EFF is coming out. I don't know if they're coming out on that day, but I saw them put out some statement about it. So next 2 days we should find some organization that we can, as Daddy Basco said, build up an alliance with them on this particular issue.
Okay, so as soon as you hear any information, share it with us so that we can also make a representation.
Yeah. The NDC caucus is ready. They keep calling me and telling me that they're ready as soon as they get the word.
Yes, I greetings to one and all.
Rastafari.
Rastafari.
Greetings. Yes, I. It's good hearing from everyone. Rasaswat especially. You know, I remember during the Achibota saga, somebody I went to school and said, "Hey, Rusty, what's the first Rasaswat pa?" So I was so pa. I'm saying, "Hey, yeah, for back, yeah." So Rasaswat, yes, I give thanks for the teaching. You know, the reminders and things like that. Yes, you know, I used WhatsApp Meta to check on the achievements of Rastafari. I think somebody should do well and then just go to Meta and then type on achievements of Rastafari and read it for us. I don't think I can live here and then do that. If somebody can do that and then read it for us, it's interesting. Now, I also agree with him that Rastafari is political. You know, look at the aim and objective of EWF. The hungry must be fed, the sick nourished, the age protected. All of those things, you cannot do those things without being political. That is the work of government. That is the work of politician, you know, to feed the people, to care for the people. It's God's job, you know. And then when government, you can't talk about government without the Bible saying, once a man is given, once a child is born, for just a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. You can't talk about government without talking about politics. So that one too is there. And then His Majesty was a king. So we are kings, we are princes. So that is our business, that is our job. We must be politicians. But what we don't like is the partisan politics. What divide the people, like Aswat said. You know, recently somebody said that, you know, yesterday I was at the station at midnight and two women were conversing and said, the guy who said that President Mahama by the debut, somebody said that because President Mahama is in power right now, even water is not sweet. That is the partisan politics Rasta is fighting against. So that we don't even think, we just like that. Everything MPP does is wrong, everything entity does is right. You know, that type of thing. Rasta don't want to get involved in that. We want to be on the side of the truth every time. On the side of the truth every time. But I think that, you know, before the white man come, we didn't have religion in Africa. We had spirituality. And spirituality is culture, and culture is not private. So I don't think that, I don't think spirituality is private. It is not private, it is public. But it is culture, and culture cannot be hidden. So but you know, when you talk about spirituality, you're talking about knowing that man has got God inside him, and he must feed that man inside you, the higher man be fed. You are not just flesh. There's a soul inside you that can live beyond you. And Black people knew this before the white man come. So that if people die prematurely, you have to appease their souls so that their souls will not torment us. We knew that man could live beyond this body. So religion was not part of our thing. It was culture. It was in everything. It was the way we drank, the way we sang, it was in everything. It was not special like go to church on Sunday or do this and do no rules and regulations. It was free spirit, but it involved everything we did. And then, you know, when you talk about Traore, and one thing came to mind. The white man has not realized, especially America has not realized that when you kill good people, you are telling the universe that I don't like good people. So look at look at the people in America right now. Look at their politicians right now. That's the result of killing good people. If you kill good people, what are you going to get? You get bad people. People don't think about the people. If you kill Malcolm X, what are you looking for? You are fighting people who don't think about anybody. They think about themselves alone. Selfish people. Racist. If you kill Martin Luther King, that's what you're looking for, and that's what you're getting. You see, let me end it here so another person can come inside. Give thanks for the love, everybody. Yes, I am.
Give thanks, my love.
Yes, give thanks, my Lord. Last Martin.
Greetings.
Greetings, Yaga.
Yeah, Yaga, yo. Well, I've been listening. I did some funeral. I did ancient in wife in funeral, and so it's very loud there. That is why I know they talk and things. But the Traore issue be my main issue because this guy, we can't sit down in this 21st century again for America and the West to wake up and want to use the same tactics they used to take rulers for years again on us. So we have to find a way to defend this Traore huge man.
Yes,
we have to find a serious way to make sure that they don't kill him like they killed Sankara and killed Gaddafi and all these things. And then we need to encourage or pressure the other African countries to start follow suit. Like how with the here's John Mahama is trying to like nationalize our extractive sector. We need to make sure say we can encourage them to do those things so that we can stand on our own feet and stop bowing to these Western thieves where they call themselves our colonial masters. They are not any colonial masters, they are thieves. We come thief, exactly. We don't give them any respect again for that matter at all and let them say anything to us again. We are wise now.
Exactly.
That's all I want to add.
Give thanks, my lad. You see, added to that, Cakes, you see, one of the greatest things that we can do where Traore is concerned in Ghana is to get Mahama to move closer to Traore.
Yeah.
Because he made a statement the other day, you know. Traore made a statement the other day.
Yeah.
Or the alliance. They made a statement the other day that there are 2 countries in West Africa that they don't have any political alliance with them. And because of the fact that their political orientation and agenda is opposing to what the alliance is trying to do. And they said that they are trying to maintain the colonial legacy, which is opposing to Burkina Faso. And it was Ghana and Ivory Coast. To me, that is worrying. So Mahama have to do something about that. I don't know how we're going to deal with Ivory Coast, but we have access to Mahama right here. Because that is keeping Ghana apart from building up a stronger alliance with AES and Traore.
King, when was this statement made, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm going to find it and give you. He said it last week. Because, I will find it and send it today.
Yes, because I'm asking that because 2 things. We know that the previous government was extremely, ridiculously hostile to Traore, together with the government of Nigeria. We know that. I have a famous picture that I show on the network all the time where Akufo-Addo went over there and Traore was greeting him with the elbow. You know, and that shows the body language that they had. Currently, we realize that Traore he doesn't travel much. He did travel outside of Cote d'Ivoire to attend the inauguration of John Mahama.
Yes.
One of the very few times that he left his country. Yes. He arrived on a military plane. We all know what happened, all of that. He took off his hat to greet the vice president, who is a woman. Very significant because Traore, represents his country. If he took off his hat to salute John Mahama, he will be saluting, he'll be, according to diplomatic ethics, laying down the diplomas, you know, he will be basically submitting.
Yeah.
However, to the vice president, who is a woman, he applied cultural wisdom.
Yes.
He took off his hat.
Yes.
Without attracting any criticism about submitting to Ghana.
Yes.
Treated the vice president as a mother.
Yes.
And then went on to do what he had to do, right? Now, I don't think that, and I'm saying this because I think that this is a statement he may have made under the previous government. I think that Ghana is one of his closest allies in the region. Currently, not just in terms of the people, but also in terms of the government. John Mahama has made statements to the effect that we are willing to cooperate with them. In spite of all the politics surrounding how we can or cannot deal with them, the Mahama government has actually shown that they're actually in alliance with them. So I would want to explore that statement a little bit. You know, Ivory Coast, of course, we know Ivory Coast. Ghana, not under Mahama. I think maybe under Akufo-Addo, where they were greeting with the elbows. Not when they were taking off in the hat and show respect to the vice president. So we want to look at that a little closer. Give thanks.
All right, I will check it out. But here's another one too. You see, Ghana is trying to get Burkina Faso and the AES come into ECOWAS. Mahama still trying that, and they are offended. The AES is offended by that move because they knows what the implication of that is. That these ECOWAS people, they are still holding on to France and the United States.
Yes.
So they try and get them to become part of that. Now it's like they will be bowing. And as you can see, my lord, that Traore is not about bowing to nobody. The AES is not about bowing to nobody. Them nationalize and them take over and them kick out the straight up. They draw the line clear. But one of the things you have to, as I said before in the beginning, that when you want to understand a government, right, or a president, you have to understand the political line that they toe. The NDC is a social democrat. And social democracy is not a revolutionary government. Throughout them trying to build a revolutionary government. They're trying to build what was there before when Thomas Sankara was there. That was scientific, socialist, Pan-African revolutionary government. That's what they're trying to build. But they refrain from using the word socialist because of the stigma and the whatever that is against it.
Yeah.
But the application is a revolutionary application from Traore came to power all the way, the kind of thing. Look at how in this United States of America and refuse to even go there and meet them. The man is not playing. So you have to look at the political philosophy of these governments. You look at Ivory Coast and you check the NDC. The NDC is not just only Mahama, There are ministers in there who have a certain political philosophy and orientation. And if it comes to a vote and so on and so forth, they will vote against certain things. And that is the party. So the party line is important to understand when you're looking at these issues. And I think Traore is very clear as regards to the political orientation of the NDC. But I will find it and double check it and then send it to the eye.
I really appreciate that. And I just want to add that, so the AES and the ECOWAS issue, I had an interview with a Nigerian journalist, who stated that now the only hope of France maintaining a foothold in Africa is ECOWAS.
Yes.
So yes, I see where you're coming from. I have want to advocate by saying that we maybe they're still trying to maintain a certain alliance of states in the region, But hey, it doesn't have to be ECOWAS. If AES is working, why can't the other states sign up under AES, for instance?
Exactly.
Even if it means changing the name AES, because AES, kind of denotes a certain geographical location, the Sahel area. So even if we have to do away with the name, but adapt the principles and the practices that making the AES successful and being held by the citizens of Africa. Forget about the leaders. The leaders are always controlled by, the forces that control them. Listen to the people.
That's right.
Look at the body language of the Ghanaian people when Traore stepped out to come, when he stepped out of his, everybody was like, I actually heard somebody saying that if Traore was to run for elections against John Mahama of all people, who has won the biggest margin of election ever, people think that he will lose to Traore.
That's serious.
That's how popular this person is. So again, I'll end by reiterating that we need to step up and show up for Traore. We cannot sit down and be like, we're docile and we're going to no, that's not going to happen. But while we're doing that, let's not only look at the United States of America or whoever. Let's look within. Because in the case of Thomas Sankara, it was, what his name was, Kabore, or what his name is, Campore, something like that.
Campore,
right? Who was his right-hand man. So we should also look closely at that. But I'd like one thing that I heard about Traore. I hear that he's taking everything that happened to Sankara and he has a plan of how to deal with that. You see that small thing that he moves with? That's a small army. That's a small commando unit. Him and those people that work with him, that's a small commando unit. It's not going to be easy for anybody to take this man down. But we need not to leave him in the front line by himself. We need to put everything that we have behind him to make sure that that shining example that he set, which needs to be emulated by the rest of Africa, it's not doused and make some kind of nonsense example of. We saw Magufuli in Tanzania, and we saw how he mysteriously disappeared down the horizon. We can't keep having that. We must stand up for what is right. Give thanks.
Exactly.
Rastafari.
That's right.
Yes, sir, my lords. We give thanks for the reasoning. We'll ask if there are any more comments. There are some persons here we've not heard from them on the topic. If provide motive, 7 Fireside, I don't know if you have anything to contribute to the discussion.
Hey, Russ Aswad, I want to give thanks. I want to give thanks for what you just did, Appreciate it. Yeah, salute and respect. Yeah, you touch on crucial things, Yeah, and thanks for the reasonings. Thanks for your points, job beloved. Martin, yes, and Daddy B, And now, Rascal, for you too, the reasonings you put on board. Yeah, thank you so much, Just to listen and learn,
Rastafari. Give thanks to the eye as well,
Rastafari. Provide motive, please. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, give thanks.
Rastafari. Yes, we've spent 2 hours already discussing Rastafari as African Liberation Force, with Ras Aswad and Krabia leading the discussion. At this stage, if there are no more comments, questions, contributions, we'll ask that Ras Aswad gives us his closing remarks. Give thanks.
Yeah. Well, what I would like to say is that the introduction that you give about education is very, very key. As we always say, knowledge is power. And as I said, I've been watching the series that's been going on, and I felt it was a very innovative and timely initiative. We work and pray that it will continue and develop to the next level and even reach a stage where the general community can part and learn that it's not just I and I as Rastafari who get in this knowledge, but it can go to the broader community for them to see the levels at which we are taking things, especially politically, because society is not that familiar with us dealing with social and political issues, and it's important for them to recognize that we have an opinion on the policies that both parties have in this country and where we stand in relation to the people. They must be able to see and feel us and know that we are with the people. Right? So this educational platform will actually open that understanding to them. So I would say more power and more strength to the item for establishing this platform here. And let us push and be out there on the 30th. Even if nobody out there, the media will take us. And sure we'll see that Rastafari is with him. Give thanks.
Give thanks, my lords. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate the wisdom you have shared with us. And we give thanks that next time when there is the need for another reason where you have your expertise allows you to lead a discussion, you'll be willing and ready to lead such discussion. My lords, we also thank you all for your presence. Rasejo, we continue to appreciate you. Rasejo will share the recorded version online so that once who couldn't participate can revisit the conversation and appreciate the positions we established or some of the recommendations made in this conversation. So, my lords, I want to give thanks for every brethren for participating, and we'll meet again next 2 weeks for another Rastafari reasoning. I give thanks.
Rastafari. Thanks and praise.
All right.
Yeah.